What's going on, guys? So I have been putting this off for quite a while, but a lot of you guys have been asking me to either do a Warzone routine. You've been asking what my aim training routine is or how you can get started with aim training. Now, the entire purpose of this video and for this playlist is mainly for new players. I do have an additional Warzone routine that is kind of an intermediate level that you have aim trained a bit in the past and you're a little bit familiar with aim lab or whatever aim trainer you use. That is a good routine for you, but this one strictly is for those who are just trying to get into aim training. This routine is heavily focused on smoothness and tracking. In addition to that, I did put in some target switching as well as some click timing if you do snipe a lot. Now, if you are looking to get into your click timing more, I would recommend you would check out a routine for maybe like Valorant or a click timing heavy game like that. All right, now quickly before I get into the playlist, each scenario in the playlist and how you can find it, I'm just going to run you guys through my settings super quick. So for my crosshair, this is mainly preference. These are my settings though. I just use this red cross right here. Audio, a lot of this is preference as well. If you are looking for a sound pack to import into AimLab for some different sounds, I will drop a link to the one that I use down in the description. Now coming on over here to graphics, a lot of this is just like what your PC can handle, but AimLab is not that hard to run, so you should be able to just put good or ultra or whatever you want to use. I recommend you put all of the FX off here though, as they can kind of interfere with the visuals. For display res, make sure that is set to your monitor's highest display res or whatever you play on, as well as the highest refresh rate. Definitely do low latency for the queued frames, and then if you want to limit the frame rate, I recommend you just set that to above your monitor's refresh rate. Now similar to crosshair, the visual settings, a lot of these are preference. These are kind of just what I'm rocking. So I use a very bright green target and then a dark background. If you are doing this a lot, you may want to just look into having a dark background, as I think it's a little bit easier on your eyes, especially if you don't play with lights on the background and it is dark in your room. For the controls, I'm assuming most of you will be doing this for Warzone, but they do have Vanguard as well as some other games on here. You literally just put the same exact sensitivity that you use in game for Warzone or whatever game here. Now for your FOV, you don't have to use the exact FOV using COD. I change mine between 103 and 120. Basically, if I don't have to look around a lot and the target is just in front of me and I want the target to appear a little bigger, I'll put it to 103. But if I have to look around a lot and search for targets, I'll put it to 120. But I would just stay in between that. Any lower, you kind of might be cheating out on your own practice. ADS sense, if you have a different ADS sense, then you can change this, but I don't. Mine's 1.0, so that should be 1.0. And this other stuff is not that important. If you do play on controller, some of these settings may help you out there, but I do not play on controller, so I do not change these. Now for the game, nothing really too important here. If the countdown duration timer at the beginning is bothering you, you can turn that down. I have it set to 3. It doesn't really bother me at 3, so I just leave it there. And this is the actual color for your targets. Like I said, you're going to want high contrast, so I just put it to a super bright green, as you can see on the right here, and that is that. And then for down here, you're going to want to be in first person. Maybe if you're playing like Fortnite, you could do third person, but for the most part, just keep it on first person. And then these are also important. Make sure you have both of these off and hide the weapon. Now for the keybinds, this again is not that important. The only keybind I think is really important is if you want to restart a scenario, which I just have set to 3, but just use whatever you want for this. All right, so now that I ran you guys through the settings, I want to show you guys how to find my routine. I think the easiest way is if you just download AimLab, you go into the custom tab up here, go to workshop, and then you can search my name strahfe, and then you'll get a few different options. This first one here is actually the first routine I did alongside with RA. I'd say this is like an intermediate level Warzone routine. That's not really who this video is for. This video is kind of just for like people that are just getting into it. So I just made this new one today. It is called Strahfe Beginner Warzone Routine. You can see my logo in red here. So you're just going to want to hit the download button. It'll look like this one. And then download that. You also can just go to the Steam workshop and download it there. And then all you have to do is just hit the play button and it should start up. So I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of all of these quick, and then I'm going to go into more detail on each one. So starting off here, we just have like some smoothness scenarios as well as some tracking scenarios. Moving down, we have close fast strafes, which will help out your reactivity and reacting to targets. Apex gallery, this is a combo of movement and kinetic click timing. Close long strafes, this is for your reactivity as well as your tracking again. Now this Marka XYZ, this one is probably the most difficult one in the playlist. I wanted to throw a harder one in here just so you guys like have something to aim for and something to challenge you. So that is that one. Moving down here, we have a target switch scenario as well as a status static click timing scenario and another easier target switching scenario. So now I'm going to go into each one and kind of tell you guys how you should play the scenarios and if you should change any settings for each one of them. Alright, so starting out here, we have a smoothness scenario, and basically if you guys want to just navigate through each scenario, you can start with some of these ones down here if you like, but if you just want to play in order, it'll start you at number 1 and then you'll just hit play and then resume. So for this one, basically it's a very slow moving target. You're going to want to focus on your mouse control. You can kind of see it just goes back and forth, pretty slow. It's not the most difficult scenario, but this is super important to focus on your mouse control. So I would say, guys, even for this whole routine, just like don't focus that much on the high scores, as like if you're just aim training for high scores and not to work on your weakness, I just don't think that's a good path for improvement. For example, like on this one, you could probably cut your sensitivity in like half and maybe lower your FOV to 80 to get a higher score, but once you go play a real game, then it's not really going to help you. So what I would recommend is, for this one specifically, try to use your normal sense, and if you want more of a challenge, try and up your sense. That way you can be smoother on a higher sense, and then that way if you are smoother on a higher sense, which is more difficult, when you go back to your normal sense, you'll be a lot smoother and it'll be easier. Alright guys, so the next one is RA Glider Easy. Now this one is working pretty similar things to the first one. Going to work on your smoothness as well as your tracking, a little bit more emphasis on the tracking compared to smoothness. Basically you're going to have a target drop down like this, it'll start at the top. Alright, yeah, so for this one, this is going to kind of help you shoot people out of the air on Warzone, or if you play Rebirth Island, it's super good for that. But overall, this is just another good one for smoothness as well as tracking. Now the next one here is RA Close Fast Strafes Easy Invincible. This one is going to stress a little bit more on reactivity and reacting to targets. For this one, it is important not to predict where the target is going, but rather just react to it. And this is a good one, for example, to have like 103 FOV, because the target's always going to be in front of you. But yeah, that is that one. So moving on, guys, we have RA Apex Gallery Easy. I know it has Apex in the scenario name, but I do think this is a good one for Warzone as well. Basically, this one is just going to work a little bit of your movement as well as aiming at the same time. If you guys notice, like for example, when I use like hip fire guns, I'll be strafing with A and D on my keyboard at the same time that I'm shooting, and I think this is a great scenario to practice stuff like that. You can see at the bottom you get a little bit of a movement bar, which you do get score from. If it goes red, that means you have to change direction. Basically, you just want to try and keep it somewhere in the middle the whole time like this, and just not make it red, or don't stand still. And then same time, you're gonna want to click the targets as you move. You have a single fire weapon here, or semi-auto, whatever, and just gonna try and click these targets at the same time that you're moving, and I think this is a good scenario. Okay, and then I decided to throw in another long strafe scenario into this routine because I think it is a very good scenario to work on your reactivity, and I do think it'll help you. You may get frustrated as you might just get flooded with the movement, but keep grinding, and I promise you it'll help with the up close engagements in Warzone, which by the way I think is probably the hardest part on keyboard and mouse, especially going against aim assist, which, you know, it reacts instantly. So, you know, on keyboard here we have to try and do our best, and I think this is a good way to do that. All right, next up here we have RA Morka XYZ Smooth. Like I said, this is the hardest one in the routine. This one is even difficult for me. Basically, this is going to just work on your smoothness again in all planes, X, Y, and Z, and you're going to try your best to stay on this target. Kind of hard to do this as I'm recording, but you get the idea. That is the whole goal of this one, and I put this in here mainly just to challenge you guys. All right, guys, so moving on here, we have RA Psalm Target Switch. Now, this one is the very first target switching within the routine here, and this one is definitely not the easiest, not the hardest. It's about in the middle, but I've been doing this routine forever. It is a very good routine for target switching. It does help you a little bit with tracking as well. Not really many tips with this one, just kind of, you know, follow the targets. The only tip I'd say for this one is to try and be as fast as possible in between targets. So you kill one, try and flick as fast as you can onto the other one, but don't overshoot it. And I think it's more important to focus on accuracy before you get down this speed. Alrighty, so next up here we have RA One Wall 4 targets. Basically, this is the only static clicking one in this whole routine. Basically, static clicking is when the targets are not moving and you just have to try and shoot as many as possible. So this is similar to Grid Shot or Tile Frenzy, but I think those are not very good because the target is too big and you're kind of just like working on speed at that point, and I don't think it's really that practical for in-game. But for this scenario, all you're going to want to do is click as many targets as you can in the given amount of time. And the only tip I'd give you guys for this one is you could maybe put your FOV to like 110 so you can see more. If you're like down here, you can see some in the top right. As well, I would try and keep a straight line between each target rather than like go like this, for example, and down. Basically, you're going to want to keep the shortest path you can for your cursor and make straight lines in between each one. And this will help out things in game like one tapping heads with like a deagle or even sniping for headshots. And then finishing it off here, we have RA Dombra Target Switch Easy Smooth. This is a pretty easy target switch scenario. I kind of wanted to end off this routine with a rather easy scenario. This one is pretty fun though. I'd recommend you play this one at about 110 or 120 FOV. And yeah, you get the point. It is similar to the other target switching one, just a little bit easier. here, and you're going to want to try to be as fast as possible in between each target. Alrighty guys, so that is about it and all I have for today. Now again, to find this routine, you can search my name in the workshop in the playlist tab, and it is going to be this one with my red logo on it right here. I will also drop a link down to the Steam workshop. Basically, if you can't find it on AimLab for whatever reason, you can just download it from there and it should be in your game. Now, if you are on console and are still looking to do some aim training, what I recommend you do is either purchase Modern Warfare or Vanguard or whatever. I would load up some bots. If you're playing on controller, I would just turn off aim assist, shoot a couple hundred bots every day. Same with keyboard, you're just gonna have to shoot a couple hundred bots, and I think that's probably about all you can do. Unfortunately, there are no aim trainers on console yet, but something is in the works and AimLab is on the way to console if I'm not mistaken. But yeah guys, that's gonna wrap it up for me. I've been asked to make this video for months now, and I wanted to update from the last one. I hope this is helpful to anyone out there. If you guys did find this helpful in any way, shape, or form, a like really does help me out. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and take it easy. Peace.